Hello again, everybody. Welcome once again to my server build. This time we're still on part 3, but we're doing step 5. After this, there's just one more part left. So I hope you enjoy this and get something out of it. And if you do, please again do this channel a great favor and subscribe to it so we can continue to bring you content that everybody can use. We're down to just one unopened box, the power supply. I'm going to open this up. That's the power cable. Bag of cables. Now I actually added one more SATA power cable to this because it was going to be short one, and I had an extra one left over from one of my previous builds. This one here is the Molex. I'm not going to use this, hopefully. There is one that requires the Molex currently, but I may modify a cable so that it doesn't use it at all. But I have an adapter for that one. Then I have, of course, this power supply is only semi-modular, so it has built on it already the two that every computer is going to generally need, which are the 24, what's actually 20 plus 4 pin connector for the motherboard, and it's actually 2 4s, a 4 plus 4 for a total of 8 for the 12 volt supply for the CPU. So let me undo these. This one has not been used at all, it's brand new. And so these two cables are going to have to be used. There's no way of controlling the length on this unless I bought custom cables and I had a fully modular one. But this is okay for now. I'll have to tuck this stuff away somewhere. Probably tie it to the bar. I didn't put the bar back in yet, into the case. So this bar is still going to go across the beam. It looks like we have several places to put it. There's one like pretty close to the middle, but there are other places as well that it can go. So I haven't decided yet where that's going to go when I put it back. In terms of these, I do not need this one because I will not be putting a video card in here. So this is the power connector to allow for up to 2 video cards, or one large video card that requires 2 power connectors to it. So that's going to go on the side for now. Now what I have here is SATA power. This one has 4. This is what came with the power supply. And this one here has 3, which I got from another build. So a total of 7, which should be enough. I have a total of actually 6 drives, counting the optical drive that require power from this. The 7th one will go with the adapter that I got for the RGB. So this looks like we'll be able to do it fine. Oh, by the way, you noticed I went all red tone in terms of my SATA data cables. These are only 12-inch ones. They would have been nice to use. Although I did find online this morning, I did find that I actually can get 8-inch straight through red ones. So those should be here later this week. So I'm not going to totally button down those SATA data cables. This case is interesting because you can actually build it, put the power supply cables through from the outside, get things organized, even tested, which I'm going to do. Once I get it all together, I'm going to test it again and see if I see everything that's in here. So I'm going to have these 2 using the type 4. Now I'm going to put the power supply upside down inside this case. The reason I'm doing that is if you add up the fans, I'm going to have the fan for the water cooler blowing in. That's a 120 millimeter fan. I have this new side, I have the side one that I added that's going to be blowing in as well. And this one will actually then be one of the ones that blow out. Initially, maybe the only one. The remaining air will have to find its way out through the various openings that the case has, which are many. Optionally, as I said earlier, I may put this fan back in, but it won't be this fan. I have a PWM version of it that'll be more effective. This is a rather cheap fan that came with the case. I don't think I've used any of the fans that have come with any of my cases. I've always upgraded them to something better. So let me undo these. It's going to be an interesting task in terms of routing this. I found that when I try to address the cables later on, I may have to actually redo it several times and even connect different connectors like the SATA power to different drives, because it makes the actual cable management easier to take care of, more effective. And the big thing with me with cable management, this is not meant to be a showpiece PC, although in a video not too far in the future, I'm going to show you some additional mods I'm going to do to this case, in particular the outer shell to it, the outer, so it will matter then, but initially it's not. I've never considered the good cable management anything more than just trying to make sure I effectively get the heat managed in the case. I've been a nut about this ever since I was a mainframe computer technician, and the things that destroyed computers the most was the heat. Over time, it makes everything brittle, no matter what you do. So you got to keep the heat down as much as you possibly can. That's what I learned as a professional mainframe technician a few years back. More than a few, but I learned the lesson and I remember it. So with this, let me get these two connected first. I'm going to route this through the hole. Actually, no, I take that back. Let me get this bracket on the outside. Oh, it did come with screws. For a second I thought I didn't get this packet with the screws. This is to mount the power supply to the case, but I'm going to use them to mount it to the bracket, because the bracket has these screws I have up here to mount the bracket to the case. So I'm going to use these screws that came with the power supply. And good, a few more tie wraps came with this too. Always good to have. Put those in my bundle right here before I lose them and they get all over the place. It's going to be upside down just like this. So it looks weird because this thing has like a half screw thing here. Let me see if I can show that to you up close. So if you look at this one right here, it's not really a screw hole. It's like a half a screw hole. Didn't notice that before when I reviewed the case. Let me go ahead and get these screws. It's always good to use the screws that came with the power supply. That way you know for sure the threads match, but more importantly, not the threads as much as the length. There are a lot of different lengths of these 6-32 screws. So you don't want to use the wrong ones and then hit into something critical in the inside. So that's why I always use the screws that came with the power supply, if they did. Otherwise the case usually has some too that would work. This one definitely does. Feed this guy through. I'll start by feeding through the motherboard connector. That has to go all the way to the other side of the memory. It's all the way back in there, the connector for the power. So I got to get that back in there. Feed it through the hole in the back. I'm going to go underneath the actual SATA cables and around these cables that are for the RGB for now. Get around them a little bit. And then I'm going to, the side that has the lock is on the top here in the orientation that I have. Let me get underneath these cables here, these little cables. I heard it click, so it's clicked into place now. So the main power connector is there. I have all these other cables that are on top of it. I don't want that one underneath for now. I'm going to redo all of this, especially the ones for the RGB. I should really get those guys out of the way as much as I can. I'll drag them out to the side here. So now this one is the CPU. Now the CPU in this one, it uses all 8. And I see the connector on this side. It's up over there. Through the hole again. Latch is on the top side. And it snaps, so we're in. Okay, we now have power to the motherboard. Now it's a matter of the SATA connectors. I have 2 drives on the side here. And I got 2 drives. One drive way over here, one drive way up here, 2 drives way up here with that little adapter. This is a little pigtail that you have to adapt power for the optical drive. Little thing here. This is the one that's the adapter for the optical drive. So this should connect right into one of the SATA power connectors, and it does. Make sure I get the orientation right, where the little L-shaped notch is right there. So that's going to go in together like this. But now I don't want to put that on yet. I want to see which is the best way to orient these. Then I got this one with 4. So which one gives me the best path? 2, 3, 4, and then this one has 3. This longer one with the 4 on it looks like it might be best to grab some of the oddball stuff off to the side. So I might be able to grab those 2 plus that one, 3. Let me see. So if I come in here, I won't connect it to the power supply yet. If I come through here and I feed this down, they're going to be hard to get to. They are right out of the way of everything in there behind that fan that I put in. I can get to them, but they're going to be hard. So let me see, is the orientation such that I can do that? So it looks like I'll be able to get this one. Let me do the bottom one first because I can't see that one as well. It's going to be hard to show on the camera, sorry. But I've got to try to get the lower one first. Definitely that one there is going to probably be for the RGB, the third one on there. And the fourth one can be one of the other drives because it won't be able to reach any other way. You go underneath the SATA data cable, and there's the power right there behind the fan. You know what I may do is just remove that fan. That won't cause any grief for the bracket necessarily. That's pretty easy to get back in there. Let me do that. That'll be the simplest way. Notice a pattern here. I have to keep removing stuff to get to places on this thing. Nature of the ITX cases, from what I understand. I can see this much better. Okay, good. Get that out of the way better. This is going to have to do a 90 degree on me, so I'm bending a 90 degree in here. So what I need to do is get that little connector here. It's in. Got it in. So now this one here is going to go to the next drive. And move this one over and catch this drive here. It's a little bit lot easier, this one. Okay, 2 drives are in. Okay. Do I need to put this on or off, this fan, for anything else over here? As long as I got it out, let me see, is there anything else I'm going to have to do here? You know what, I'm going to go ahead and put some cable ties in here. Okay, let me get these tied up together. So those 3 are together. Let's make sure you see the front of the scissors. My brother-in-law is a surgeon, he says the same thing. I like to take these and curl them like this and bend them. It makes a hook in them so I can actually get them around stuff. So it becomes like this. You know, they don't show the cable management too often online. Some of the other YouTubers, I guess they consider it pretty straightforward, but I find it one of the more challenging things to get done exactly the way I want. Sometimes I wind up doing it several times before I get the cable management exactly the way I want it. Such a small case. Even big cases, you run into this in certain spots, right? That's really why I'm doing this now, to make sure there's plenty of room for this fan. Let me get the fan back in now. Is it writing free? Yep, so we're doing good. So I got 2 of the SATA cables. I got this thing a little bit all twisted up now. So now these cables are separated as much as possible. It gives me more flexibility in packaging them up later. There's one more SATA power on here. This one I can reach into something. Now this one that's further down the cable, I will never be able to connect that to anything. I am going to just leave that dangling there for now. And I will plug in my RGB probably to that one. But this one here, I can get it somewhere. I can get it up to this other 3.5-inch hard drive. Let me see, will this actually reach it? Oh, this one will reach it. So I take that back. That third one will be for the optical drive. Since the optical drive has this, it reaches down into where that's at. This has one PCIe slot on it that I can use. My plan right now is to leave that blank for now. I don't need the video for a server. This one here, it's going to have to be flipped in order to get into position because the little notch, the little L-shaped notch is on that side and that side, so I have to do it this way. Let me just go ahead and bend the wires. Makes it a little bit easier. And then it's going to go what appears to be upside down into this one. And now I felt it lock in place. I still can reach the end of this one to plug in the RGB. Let's turn it a little bit so it's oriented properly. It actually makes it to the power supply. So I can actually plug it into one of the peripheral ones. You have 3 peripheral ones there. Pick the top one, it's a short cable. So now 3 drives and the RGB eventually are connected. Actually, no, take that back. It wasn't the RGB, it was this one for the other drive. Let me connect that now while I remember. Well, not that bad. Black and red. The black and red follow the theme, so it's not that bad. So I can be able to squeeze this in here. I can't remember seeing a video where they struggled this much. At least they didn't show it when they dealt with this case or similar size case. Got it in place there. So it wraps around those 2, connects to this one that way, connects to that one. So that takes care of 4. Actually, all I need out of this next cable is 2 of them. So one connect to this hard drive here, and the other one to give you the RGB. And I do want the RGB around this area anyway, so I'm going to have 2 to choose from for the RGB. Let me go ahead and run this through. I didn't hear it snap, so there, felt it snap. Okay, so that's it. And I'm not going to do the RGB on it right now. I'm going to connect this end here onto the power supply. So I'll pick the other top one. It gives me one free. Still have one free there. Now that is everything connected. So I guess at this point, I'm going to go ahead and fire it up like this. I think I have everything connected. I got the little speaker on there. I put that in there before when the cameras were off. I like to hear the beep. Got all the other connectors on. This thing is heavy. That is a heavy dude. I can leave the power supply out of it. Make sure the power supply switch is in the off position, and it is. Got the power switch up in the front here. I need a monitor. Let's hook up the keyboard and mouse to the back. Hook up the keyboard and mouse back here. I'm not delivering this to a customer, so I'm going to go ahead and take the power cable out. I have other ones buried in my junk drawers, but this way I get to test the power cable too. It's plugged in the power supply, it does not on though. Let me get a monitor and hook up HDMI. Monitor's on. Okay, the moment of truth. Turn the power supply on. Don't see anything funny happening right now, that's good. And then I gotta hit the power switch. The top one is the power. Fan is turning. See what it says. Sizing everything up probably right now. Okay, that's a good sign. So now let me see if I can get into the BIOS. Hit the reset switch at the bottom one. Hit the delete key over and over again until I get into the BIOS. I heard the beep. It posted okay. And we're into the BIOS. What does the CPU temperature look like? 31. Motherboard temperature 27. We are looking pretty good. Now what do I see in terms of drives? Let me turn this around a little bit. It has a bunch of drives. It says SATA 3 is not available. I got a SATA 1, SATA 2, SATA 0, 1, 2, and 3. I got my M2. I got my DVD. I don't have, and you know why? Because I didn't hook that dude up, did I? I did not hook it up to power. Okay, that's going to be a challenge. I may have to restructure the power cables because I didn't put anything on the SSD. But it looks good. Temperature staying steady. See all the drives. Beautiful. Except for the one that's not power, no power on it right now. Let me power this off. Let me turn the power supply off and let me get some redoing of the cables, because now I'm going to have to probably move that one over to here. I'm going to have to go down from the top. This is going to be a little bit of a challenge. Okay, I'm going to take a break now anyway. Since it's working, I'm feeling better. Let's take a break. I will come back and have this with the proper power, and then you'll see it when I power it back up again. Well, that concludes part 3, step 5 of my server build. The next part will be the final step. It'll be part 3, step 6, and the hardware build at that point will be complete. Again, if you got something out of this video, or even just general entertainment, please do me a favor and subscribe to my channel. All you have to do is click on this little head here and follow the instructions. Thanks again, and thanks for watching.